Okay, so bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. And very good afternoon to everyone. How are you today?
Good, doctor. How are
I'm
you?
good, doctor.
I'm great. I'm great. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Imanina. I've seen few faces, few new faces in our class this week. Desmond and Ishak already syahid, dah tukar kelas dah, but it's okay. So we proceed with our first lecture this week. For those who just joined us this week, if you have any problem related to our assignment, because I'm already posted our assignment in our Putra Blast. Okay, then if you have any problem, then you may refer to me. Okay. So sekarang kita ada 6 orang. Okay, boleh, tak ada masalah. Okay, shall we proceed? Boleh Okay, so conflict resolution. So this is DCE3712 conflict resolution. So make sure you are in the right class. Okay, so this is our LO for today's session. At the end of the session, students are able to define what is conflict, the concept of conflict. Okay. And then explain the differences between collaborative conflict and competition conflict. Okay, dua-dua boleh jadi konflik, sama ada we collaborate or we compete. Compete ni memang another representation of conflict. It is a common lah common representation of conflict, but rarely found collaborative conflict ni. Okay, and then there are 3 views of conflict. Later on we will know what are those 3 views of conflict. Okay, and then you are able to explain the types of conflict and then explain a little bit regarding the history of conflict resolution. Okay, conflict. Okay, why at your level you need to study about conflict? What do you know about conflict? Anybody? If we talk with the layman word, okay, layman. What is conflict? Before we proceed with the formal definition of conflict. So what is conflict? Have you ever in a situation where the conflicting situation happening? Pernah tak?
We have like different opinion with other people.
Yes, different opinion with another people. Okay. Bila when basically you are having this issue, Imanina or anybody else? Bila?
Group discussions.
Group discussions, common thing lah kan? Group discussion. Some say that we should do like this. Another teams and another member say that we should do like this. Okay. In your family, another example, other than group discussion, group teamwork. In your family, have you ever been in conflict?
Yes, always.
Always, either with your parents, with your siblings, okay, with your sister, elder sister, with your brother, okay, and then sometimes it can be with your friends, okay, neighbors. It's happening everywhere, basically. Okay, even when you are at your preschool, bila kita kat sekolah tadika dulu, preschool, example. Okay, you're fighting with your friends to have a toys, for example. It is already a conflict. Okay, so same goes when we are going to enter our workforce. Okay, conflict is a common thing. Why? Because this one based on an organizational behavior model by Robbins and Judge. I'm sure if you already attended the organizational behavior classes, you've been introduced to this book, Robbins and Judge. Okay, so this is the model that been proposed by Robbins. So they stated that for OB discipline meaning that the organizational behavior, the behavior that mostly appear within the organization. Because I'm sure that we are all of us are preparing you with the working environment situation. So there are a few types of behavior, okay, commonly seen in organization, which is we can say that it is either psychology, social psychology, sociology, and anthropology. Okay, so antropologi ni, you ingat je lah, antropologi ni budaya organisasi. Okay, sociology, anything related to interaction between individuals. Okay, bila ada je interaksi, when there are interaction between two or more individuals. Sebab if let's say you exist as an individual, there will be no interaction lah. Tak ada interaction if we are alone. But if the organization involve two or more individuals. By the way, what is organization? What is organization? Apa dia organization?
Scholarship ke?
Ownership, Farah?
Scholarship.
Scholarship. Organization Organization, scholarship. No. So why we call a certain situation ni an organization? Why? Kenapa?
Consists of many people in that association.
Yes, because there are many people in an institution. Okay, sometimes the organization ni not necessarily have a building, tak semestinya. Okay, organization ni as long as you have more than one individu. Either you work in your teamwork, itu dah boleh jadi organisasi dah. Okay, in our family pun. Okay, when we have more more than one member in our family, so it's already an organization. Okay, so bila kita sebut organisasi ni, in an organization, it will involve the interaction between individuals, interaksi. Okay, kalau seorang dia takkan involve interaksi, more than one. Okay, so sociology ni dia any behavior that related to interactions between individuals. Okay, and then social psychology. So kalau kita tengok kat sini, the last one is psychology. Kalau kita tengok kat sini dia ada dua sociology dengan psychology ni, the combination of both, it becomes the social psychology. Okay, so specifically we look at the conflict here. So conflict ni dia boleh berlaku, dia boleh berada sama ada between the sociology and social psychology. Okay, because at certain level social conflict ni should be handled through psychology. Okay, in another level, okay, conflict ni should be handled through social interaction or sociology. Okay, and then if we look at the unit of analysis, there are 3 unit of analysis within the organization ni. Okay, so it will be the individual level. This one is the basic level of conflict. Okay, so example of conflict at individual level ni apa dia? Contoh. What is the example of conflict at individual level? Kecelaruan air. Apa dia? Suhaila. Yes. Sorry.
To decide something, like we need to decide our keputusan. Macam kita dapat dua pekerjaan, lepas tu kita kena pilih salah satu yang mana yang paling bagus.
Okay, so basically conflict at individual level ni, it arises due to confusion that arises within individual. So it can involve our emotional, it can involve our own decision making, macam yang Suhaila cakap. Okay, so it can involve our psychological state. Okay, itu contoh. Okay, so another example of conflict at individual level is those who having OCD. OCD. Betul?
Yes, betul.
Another example is those who are having split behavior. Dua behavior yang berbeza. For example, when you are online, or when you are in face-to-face interaction. Dua behavior yang berbeza. Split personality. So ini adalah antara konflik dekat individual level. Okay. And then group level ni common lah, macam yang Imanina cakap tadi. Imanina betul cakap tadi yang berkaitan dengan group assignments. Okay, group assignments ni later on when you entering the workplace, later on you will also work in group. Particularly when you are working in either fashion marketplace or IT. Rasanya dia banyak work as group assignment. Okay, and then lastly organizational system. This one in overall organization lah. So dia ada 3 level. Sebenarnya kalau when we look at the broader level dia akan ada lagi the state level, the country level. Okay, ini banyak tapi saya tak pasti sama ada level you all ni kita boleh pergi beyond that, beyond this organizational level. Okay. And then these 3 levels ni dia akan it will cover under the study of organizational behavior. Okay, so untuk you all insyaAllah kita cuba cover until organizational behavior sahaja, organizational level sahaja sampai sini. Individual, group, organizational. We do not look beyond. Okay. Okay. So this is another basic OB model by Robbins and Judge. Okay. So they indicated that a process within organization ni will be divided into three different process. The first one, input, process and output. Ada 3 elemen. Input, process, outcome. Okay, input, process, outcome. So outcome ni something yang we can see visibly. Okay, we can observe, we can touch. Okay. So input ni any input, any raw material that we insert before we process something. So kalau kita imagine when we want to produce a product, so kita kena ada raw material. So the raw material ni we divide into 3 levels, individual, group and organizational level. Okay, so kalau at individual level ni we can see the diversity at our workplace. Kalau workplace ataupun university pun, when you are working in group, example, you can see the diversity, the different races between your team members, for example. Okay, the multiculturalism between you and different, tak kira even different hometown pun dia dah jadi diversity. Okay, Kelantanis, Seremban, those from Negeri Sembilan, those from Johorian, for example, they already bring differences in themselves. Okay, personality, values. And then at group level, we can see the group structure. There are some groups, there will be no leader, for example, because everybody at the decision making position. Maksudnya tak ada ketua pun dalam kumpulan tu, in which any decision that you want to decide, then you make a discussion between groups, then you decide. Okay, then team responsibilities, and lastly, it will capture the organizational structure and the overall culture of the organization. Sebenarnya macam mana kita nak tengok the organizational culture ni, it depends on the individual unit. Individual unit ni yang paling penting sebenarnya, because it will shape the overall organizational culture. Aku tak ada conteng kat sini. Okay, sini. Okay, individual level ni. This is the most important element. If let's say you want to bring change to your organization later on, so where should you start? Here, the most basic unit within the organization, which is the individual level. You need to convince the individual first. Okay, later on the group, and only then you can change the organizational culture. Okay, for example, you want to bring change related to performance, the way performance being measured within the organization. Either it is fairly or it is based on subjective evaluation. So you want to change from the subjective evaluation. Have you attended the performance management class? Dah kan? Dah? Ke belum? Performance management. Dah attend belum? Tak ada dah. Guys, have you attended the performance management class?
Yeah, we take this semester.
I see. Oh, this semester dengan Dr. Wahiza or Dr. Shu?
Dr. Waiza.
Wahiza, okay. So sama. So there are few, for example, because if you just for the organization that newly been discovered ataupun newly been developed. So perhaps they do not have a solid performance management system. So then you work with this newly established organization. So then you want to propose a new systematic system, for example. Okay, to avoid so much conflict within the organization, so you need to make sure that you convince the individual level. Sama ada, depend lah, di individual level ni basically kita akan we will proceed with our CEO first and then our managers. We convince our managers and then the last one barulah kita convince our employees. First make sure that you convince the stakeholder, tapi ini dulu yang kita kena cater. Okay, then next one, process. So based on the raw materials that we have here, then we process to produce output. So proses ni dia sama juga, dia ada di individual level, tapi the elements tu probably different lah. Okay, group level, okay, and then organizational level. And lastly, we come up with the output. Output ni, what are the personality of officers working in that organization? Okay, so what are the attitudes of the team members working within their organization? And then at the end of the day, we can see what are the productivity level of the organization. Okay, so kita akan tengok daripada sini. Okay. Next one. Saya nak share. Okay. So conflict. So ini sebenarnya tadi Imanina dah explain dah. So apa itu conflict? Okay, so conflict ni any behavior in which people oppose one another in their thoughts, feelings or action. So tadi Imanina highlight on the idea, differences in ideas. Okay, so conflict ni also can happen due to differences in feelings, and then actions. Okay, ini contoh, this is a very general definition of conflict. Okay, next one. Kalau tekan ni memang tak dapat pula. Aduh. Okay. What are the attributes of conflict? Tadi kita kata conflict ni the differences in feelings, thoughts and action. Okay. So how do we know that the conflict exists or the conflict is going on? How do we know? How do we know? That currently, when we look at a certain situation, then we know this is a conflicting situation. How do we know? How do we capture, or how we inform ourselves that now we are in conflict? What are the criteria? Macam mana kita nak tahu yang sekarang ni kita berada dalam situasi konflik? Macam mana?
Kalau rasa nak marah.
Marah, okay. Yes, one of the example. Yes, we feel angry. Okay. Lagi, next one. Betul. So mean that if we feel angry ni maksudnya you can answer the last question. Can you feel the conflict? Feel angry here. Lagi? Any other example? Any other idea? Tak boleh. Lagi ada?
Mungkin kita tengok dua orang tu macam berbalah-balah macam bagi pendapat masing-masing.
Okey, kita tengok. Saya nak type tapi tak boleh nak naik kat sini. Sini. Okay, first tadi angry. Okay. Jadi then fighting ataupun apa quarrel. So kalau that one Farah, is fall under which one? Is it can be touched, can you see or can you hear? Which one? Example of which one?
Mungkin C, Doktor.
C. Okay, so fight. Okay. Can you hear the conflict? Boleh dengar? Loud voice, for example.
Betul, nada tinggi tu.
Apa dia?
Betul, betul tu.
Okay. High note voice, for example. And can you touch the conflict?
No.
Can you touch the conflict? Violence. Betul tak? When you feel angry,
Betul.
when you feel angry, how do you express your angriness? Is it you keep calm or pergi slam, slap, slam ke slap ke your opponent? Okay. So conflict ni consists of these 4 attributes. It can be see, we can feel the conflict. Feel conflict ni at individual level. Okay, at the very basic unit. Okay, individual level. We can see that we are angry at another people, or we know that we are uncomfortable with another people. For example, when you first see this guy or this girl or this lady, for example, during your orientation, when you see this girl, that comes into your mind, oh damn, I don't like this girl. Benar tak?
Benar.
Yeah.
Benar tu.
Benar, right? It's already a conflict. And then this feeling, this type of feeling, not necessarily, it happened in so many times. Either it is the first time that we see this girl or guy, or the first time we deal with him or her, or at workplace, for example. The first time deal with this kind of person. Kalau, if let's say, it is the first time and the last time, it should be fine. Right? To deal with the person that you didn't like at the first place, at the first meeting. But what happened when you work together in one organization or in one department with this person for a long time? 2 years, 3 years. Okay.
Sakit.
Apa dia Farah?
Sakit.
Trying to be heard. Okay. But what should we do? Should we avoid it forever? Should we avoid him or her forever? Or should we make things work? Or should we just ignore things? Because we are going to work together. Ini isu dia. And then violence ni. Issue the violence ni, for example, during the COVID-19 last time, I'm sure that you heard a lot of issues related to domestic violence. The number of domestic violence increase sangat during the pandemic. Okay, domestic violence ni maksudnya keganasan rumah tangga, sama ada your parents, sama ada suami pukul isteri, okay, sama ada the husband slam the wife, ataupun the wife ataupun the parents abuse the child. Itulah yang berlaku during when the government implement the work from home last time. Increase sangat-sangat. So anybody can give the reason why such thing happening? Why? Kenapa? Is it your parents didn't like you to be at home? Parents tak suka ke kita duduk kat rumah? Kenapa? Or anybody has the life experience of domestic violence? Tak apa. Saya tak boleh cerita depan-depan dah. Okay, and then Can you hear conflict? Yes, we can hear the conflict through the voice. Okay, high note voice, for example. This one later on we will go in detail regarding what are the situation that we can know or detect that there is a conflict. Okay, and then see conflict for sure. Ini yang sama sebenarnya, dia boleh sama dengan violence ni. Okay. Okay, next one. Okay. So, dia ada dekat chat ni. Hold on, Some are losing their job, therefore making them stressed. Yes, one of the reason is some of employees has been fired or has been retired or dismissed during the COVID-19 due to the movement control order, and then the company cannot run the business as usual. So therefore they need to do the shortage in terms of the manpower. They need to reduce the number of manpower. Okay, another reason, they do not have the issue of financial issue, because by the way, if let's say you lost the job, that means that you are going to be in financial issue. But for those in government or government service, for example, you are not having this issue, but still the domestic violence happening. Why? Because when everybody are at home, okay, for example, the family ni has 4 or 5 kids or children. Okay, so when everybody are at home and then both parents have to work at home. So they multiplied their roles at home. Berganda. Okay, so means that it caused the conflict role. It caused the stress because they have to deal with the kids, for example. They have to deal with the kids, with the babies that cannot be sent to nursery. Okay, they have to deal with parents that not really well. For example, if you have parents grandmother or grandparents who staying together, so they need to take care of the father or mother as well, and then at the same time they have to do their work as well, and so they have the conflict role. So that's why it may cause to domestic violence. Dia salah satu, hilang kerja ni salah satu, tapi ada lagi reason lain. One of the reason yang saya bagikan tadi. Okay? Bukan dia tak suka tengok anak-anak, tapi bila anak-anak balik ni dia menambah kerja dia. Mak kena masak before this if they work, and then if let's say the child are in boarding school, for example, then no need for them to prepare the food. Okay, and then no need for them to wash the clothes, banyak bertimbun-timbun. Okay, it add on, it multiplied their works. Okay. Okay. So every individual, they have their own experience. They come with different background. They have their own family experience related to conflict. They have their own perspective. Okay, which action that they consider to be correct, which action that they consider to be incorrect. Sebab apa? Sebab these two elements ni depends on individual background. Ada individu yang dia kata bila kita kita tumbuk pintu, then it is actually a common action. Contohnya kita tumbuk pintu. Okay, it's common action. Not necessarily we are angry at any person. Tak semestinya, kadang-kadang saja je nak tumbuk pintu. Kick the door, for example. Okay, but for some people, even when you touch your table with macam kuat sikit pun, dia dah rasakan something wrong. Okay, so the different people perceive situation differently. Okay, different individual will perceive different people will perceive similar situation differently. Okay, cara seseorang tu baca kat sesuatu situasi tu boleh jadi berbeza antara individu A dengan individu lain. Okay, so for example, for an army, untuk seorang askar, what do you think conflict for them? What do you think? For an army.
Level, doktor.
Apa dia?
Pangkat.
Sarah?
Pangkat. Pangkat.
Angkat. Apa tu? Pangkat.
Dia punya level antara macam apa corporal, senior.
Okay, macam tu. Oh, Farah tengok macam tu kan.
Ah.
Ini ada answer? Ini ada answer? For an army. Macam mana dia tengok konflik tu?
For me, army ni dia kena post jauh, macam far from the family. So dia kena bertinggal berjauhan dengan suami dan anak-anak. So mungkin di situ akan timbul konflik keluarga. Masalah keluarga.
Okay, kalau kita tengok from the perspective of his role as an army, apa yang kita rasa dia punya konflik? Betul, dua-dua tu betul. Konflik, konflik bersenjata. Betul tak? Askar.
Betul.
Saja apa yang you all cakap tu betul. Cuma when we look at from the perspective of an army, so at their level, okay, the focus of conflict is more on towards armed conflict, conflict bersenjata. For example, what currently happening between Ukraine and Russia. Okay, I'm not going to touch on the conflict related to the two countries lah. But the focus of the army conflict is armed conflict. Okay, konflik yang melibatkan nuklear, konflik melibatkan pertelingkahan between two countries. Example. Okay, so next one. Kalau kita tengok, ni you all lah students. Level students. So what are the conflict mostly happen at your level? Financial. Lagi, group assignments. Lagi, what else? Financial issue tu common. Group assignments, common. Common tu among your group, among your level, at your level. Kalau level saya dah tak ada isu dah pasal group assignment ni. I do not have issue related to finance. Dia bukan isu utama, tapi untuk level you all, finance lagi, group assignments lagi. Do not ample time to complete your assignments. Have to work until midnight to complete the assignment. Internet limitations to attend classes. Lagi, workload sebab assignment terlalu banyak. Betul? Relationship conflict. Betul? Semua diam. Saya apa?
PTPTN loan.
Apa tu PTPTN loan? Okay, PTPTN loan. Tapi sekarang tak rasa lagi. Bila you all akan rasa lepas bekerja. Sekarang dah rasa dah?
Saya dah, sebab saya ambil PT masa diploma.
Okay, I see. Okay, PTPTN loan. Lagi, apa lagi? At students level ni. Fighting to get the gadget, for example, the gadget to attend classes. Itu at this level. Okay. Next one. This one, if you are working as at a call service center. So what are the possible conflict facing by this employee?
Customer behavior.
Yeah, customer behavior. For example, difficult customer, difficult client. For example, if you are working as a client at the customer service in banking sector, so then you call the customer to promote a certain plan, a certain loan plan by the bank, for example. So then without hesitate, the customer just shut down the phone. Contoh, a difficult customer, it is stressful. Okay, the next one. Ini to an HR officer. What probably will be your conflict, the most difficult conflict when you work in the organisation as an HR officer later? Apa yang you all akan deal? They're different when you are at the training and development post, then you need to think about how you are going to measure the effectiveness of the training attended. Contoh. Again, how you need to make sure that the invited trainer able to conduct the training effectively. Then how to make sure that the training and development program arranged for that year meet the organizational objective. That one, for example, if at a training and development section. But when you are working, when you are under the employee relation department, so what are the concerns? Employee disputes. Okay, employee conflict. Then you are, for example, then you are handling the foreign worker. So what the issue? Okay, so what I want to conclude here, different role, different position role that we have in our life, position, the role either as parents or single parents. Okay, we are going to be in different types of conflict. Okay, semuanya ada konflik masing-masing, semuanya ada isu masing-masing. But it depends on sama ada our role, our position. Okay, dia tak sama setiap orang. Okay, then why are there differences in answer? Ni sebenarnya ada satu, tak apa, hak ni skip je dulu. Okay, ni sama tadi, the conclusion tadi, the conflict ni is actually happening everywhere. Okay, so sekarang ni pun possible, all of us are in conflict. Possible. I have my own, Imanina has her own, Farah has her own, Suhaila ada dia punya, lagi siapa lagi? Okay, we are having our own conflict. Okay, either at personal level, individual level, interpersonal level, group level, or organizational level. I'm having all conflicts right now at all level. Personal level, interpersonal level, group level, organizational level. Kita ada, semua orang tu ada konflik masing-masing dan it happen everywhere. Okay. So, meaning that bila kita kata it happen everywhere means that the conflict cannot be cuba habiskan ayat saya. Cannot be avoided. Yes, conflict cannot be avoided because we are living in a social life system, not in vacuum. Kita hidup dalam dunia sosial, bukannya dalam vacuum. Okay, so meaning that we have to accept not to avoid conflict. So this class ni, I'm going to share with everyone on how we are going to accept conflict, not to avoid. Okay. So dia sebenarnya avoidance conflict ni related to individual personality. For example, if let's say you are introvert and introvert. Introvert ni dia suka diam je. Dia suka, he or she ni loves to avoid the conflict. Compared to introvert, they will deal the conflict directly. Okay, at individual level. Okay. Ni pun sama sebenarnya kita dah discuss. 3 ke 4? There are 3 or 4. 3 or 4. Mak. Itu pula. 3. Anybody want to say 4?
Tapi tepi tu nampak 4.
3 or 4? So 3 or 4?
Depan nampak 4, dari belakang nampak 3.
So which one? 3 or 4?
4 plus 3.
Okay.
Different across.
So if you look at from in front, then it is 4. When you look at it from the back, then it is 3. Back or front ni, depending where you standing. Okay. So this picture has double meaning. Okay. People at different angle of life will have their own opinion of that situation. And same goes to person at different angle of the life. They look at the things from their own angle. Because people observation are limited. Individual observations are limited. Kadang-kadang, sometimes we cannot see the other angles that the other people see. And then the other people cannot see the angles from our perspective. That is why if both people cannot accept these two differences, then it may lead to conflict. Okay, the two answers are correct. 3 and 4, yes, correct. But it just the person at the front cannot see what the other person at the back see. So that's why when we involve in interaction, rather than we just understand and believe with what we see, we should also have a space to see the things from the other people's perspective. The perspective in which we cannot see. Okay? So the situation ni, the argument, if let's say both people ni disagree with one another, and then it seems that there are differences. So why the differences or disagreement or argument happen? First, differences in opinion. We already said earlier, unmet need. Unmet need ni means that the first person said that it is 4. The second person said that no, it is 3. Okay, because every person want to defend their ideas. They want to make sure that their ideas been accepted by everybody. Unmet need. The need of both person for their ideas to be accepted. So bila dia punya niat tu tak diterima, then dia akan rasa frustrated. Okay, next one, scarce resources. Okay, sumber yang terhad. Okay, for example, memang ada 2 sahaja dalam organisasi tu, there are only 2 chairs, meanwhile there are 3 employees. Okay, so limited resources can lead to argument, conflict or disagreement. Okay. Next one. So tu basic je, saja nak discuss dengan you all. Saja je. Okay, so views on conflict. Okay, there are 3 views. So sebenarnya these 3 views, okay, I'm sure everybody has experienced these 3 views. Okay, different according to different situation, then we will employ different view. Okay, ada yang kita rasa macam, oh, this is unacceptable. And then there are situations that in which we think that, yes, this is acceptable. So let's look at these 3 views of conflict. So there are 3 views on conflict. The first one, the traditional view. Okay, the human relations view. And then the last one, the interactionist view. Okay, kalau you all belajar the postmodernism, modernism, colonial. So these views ni closely related to that school of thought. Okay, modernism, postmodernism, and so on. Okay, the first one, the traditional views. Okay, walaupun even though it has been introduced long time ago, but until now, this traditional view ni still exists and it conquer a certain sistem pentadbiran. Okay, monarki and so on. Patriarki, dia akan mempengaruhi sistem pentadbiran sesebuah negara. Okay, the administration of a certain countries. Okay, so the traditional view ni is the earliest approach in which it has been introduced in late 1930s and early 1940s. Okay, to conflict assume that all conflict was bad, negative and harmful. Okay, according to the traditional view ni, it stated that all conflict ni was bad. Semua jenis konflik, either the differences in ideas, differences in thought, differences in actions are bad. It should be avoided because it is harmful. Okay, and then that is why for some people, for example, introvert, okay, they try to avoid the conflict because they think that the conflict may really harmful to them. It cause stress to them. So that's why they tend to avoid the conflict. And then the conflict ni, according to the traditional view, is viewed negatively and it was used synonymously with such terms as violence, destruction and irrationality to reinforce its negative connotation. Dia kata ada je perbezaan pendapat ni, benda ni harmful. Okay, then you should avoid it. So then meaning that if you are working in communication system or technology company, is it suitable to have this thought, this idea of conflict? Okay, conflict by definition was harmful and was to be avoided. Okay, the traditional view of conflict was consistent with the attitudes that prevailed about group behavior in the 1930s and 1940s. So during 1930s and 1940s ni, most of the country administration is based on monarchy. Maksudnya you have to be loyal to your king, queen, prime minister and so on, based on monarchy. Exactly what currently happening in India. India pun dah semakin berubah, but what still happening in Thailand, the system is based on monarchy. You cannot say anything about your king. Itu contoh. Maknanya kita tak boleh langsung ada sangkaan buruk dekat kita punya sultan ataupun raja. Okay, and then conflict was seen as a dysfunctional outcome resulting from poor communication, a lack of openness and trust between people. Openness ni means that the tendency of the higher ups to accept the comments or the feedback from the bottom up. Susah. Okay, that's why the communication too cannot flow smoothly. Okay, and then the failure of managers to be responsive to the needs and aspirations of their employees. Kalau kita tengok flow in terms of flow of communication within organization, it is from bottom to top. Top bottom ke bottom top? Up down ke down up? Mana satu? Top to bottom. Okay, dia bukan bottom up. Maksudnya arahan ni sebenarnya daripada atas ke bawah. Bawah ke atas, it is unacceptable. Okay, and because all conflict is to be avoided, we need merely direct our attention to the causes of conflict and correct those malfunctions to improve group and organizational performance. Okay, so the alternative that been taken here as the corrective action here, they eliminate the potential of conflict. For example, there's one citizen said something about the king, for example. So then they will just eliminate that person. Senang saja. Okay, to avoid the conflict. Okay, and then although research studies now provide strong evidence to dispute that this approach to conflict reduction results in high group performance, many of us still evaluate conflict situation using this outmode standard. It's been proven, it's been proven, walaupun even though this is a very traditional view of conflict, but it is proven that this type of view will increase employee performance within the organization. It increase performance, but not satisfaction. Okay, two different things. You all boleh increasekan performance by having this view related to conflict in your organization. Okay. Next one. Any question related to the traditional view before we enter to the next view of conflict? Tak ada. Senang je kan? Okay. Tak ada. Okay. Tak apa. The second one is the human relations view of conflict. Okay, the humans relation view ni dia start to become modern, the modern view. Okay, start lah So it is argued that conflict was a natural occurrence in all groups and organizations. Based on this view, it start to accept that conflict ni is a natural situation, it's a natural phenomena. Okay, because it is inevitable. Okay, it's been accepted that the conflict is something that we cannot avoid. It is inevitable. So the human relations school advocated acceptance of conflict. So dekat sini first dia dah start diterima as a natural occurrence because it is unavoidable. Okay, and then proponents rationalize its existence. Okay, it cannot be eliminated, and there are even times when conflict may benefit a group performance. As what I say, if you are working in a fast-changing environment or fast-changing organizations like IT, like communication company and so on, in which you need to change very fast, as what you learn in OD class. Okay, what happening to Nokia if when it refused to change, what happened to apa lagi not just apa nama one of the laptop brand tu, I forgot lah. IBM, what happened to IBM? IBM no longer exists, right? Nokia still there, but it's towards diminishing. Apa lagi? Ada satu ni, laptop ni. Saya suka laptop ni dulu. Oh, I forgot the brand. Dr. Faik bercerita tak tentang Nokia? Have you ever heard about Nokia company?
Yes.
Right? So sama. If you are working within this technology-based company, you need to change very fast. Okay? Then in the process of changing, it requires introduction of a new system, new service, new talents, and so on. So the introduction of new things within your organization can cause conflict. Why can cause conflict? Because it challenges the comfort zone of people. Comfort zone. For example, when you are at your 50s, for example, in which you are so comfortable with something that such as a routine work, you don't want your work nature to be changed. Tak suka dah, kita dah tak suka dah situasi persekitaran kerja kita berubah. So it's going to be very difficult for you. Okay? And then the human relations view dominated conflict theory from the late 1940s through the mid 1970s. Dia ada sikit lah berbeza dengan the traditional view. Okay, dalam sini kita dah tengok in which the conflict started to be accepted. The conflict cannot be avoided according to the view. Okay, and then there are times in which we need the conflict. Okay, in which dia kata kat situ, tapi they not yet highlight what are those benefit of conflict within the organization. Tak ada lagi, dia just kata ada sahaja. Okay, next one, the interactionist view of conflict. The last one, interactionalist view stated that conflict encourage conflict on the ground that a harmonious, peaceful, tranquil, and cooperative group is prone to becoming static, apathetic, and non-responsive to needs for change and innovation. Dia kata encourage conflict on the grounds that a harmonious, peaceful, tranquil and cooperative group is prone to becoming static. Dia kata if let's say kalau any group tu there is no conflict, there are no conflict. Okay, maksudnya we just live in a very harmonious, very peaceful situation. Sebenarnya it will lead to static situation. Static ni maksudnya tak ada perubahan. There will be no change. There will be no adaptation needed. Hidup kita akan jadi statik. Tak ada new challenge. Tak ada new kegairahan. Okay? And then that's why bila kita ujungnya kita akan jadi tak responsive. We are not responsive to the needs for change and innovation. So means that there will be no innovation or new system, no new system in our organization or in our work system and so on. Tak ada. Bila kita terlalu comfort with our harmonious and peaceful way of doing work. Okay? The major contribution of the interactionist, ni kata tinggal T, of the interactionist view, therefore, is encouraging group leaders to maintain an ongoing minimum level of conflict. Because it has been proven by past studies that if you have a minimal conflict, okay, kalau tak ada langsung konflik, itu akan lead to static situation. Okay, you need to have at least you need to have minimum conflict, because this minimum conflict ni, okay, can make sure that your the unit ni keep changing. Okay, the system ni akan sentiasa keep improving with the innovation. Okay, dan dia kata sini enough to keep the level of the number of conflict here ni, okay, enough to keep the group viable, self-critical and creative. Ini dia kata kat sini, maksudnya kita kena ada, tak kira dalam mana, dalam diri kita, either in ourselves, in our family, in our organization, then we need to keep that minimal conflict. How much this minimal refers to? So then we need to figure out, because this minimal ni, it depends on individual, depends on family, depends on the organization. Tapi kita kena ada this minimal conflict. So that's why sometimes you think that it is very difficult for you to complete things on time. Sebab apa? Sebenarnya bukan tak ada masa, tapi tak nak buat. Because you are at your comfort zone. You don't see the urgency to complete the work or the assignment at the time frame given. Tapi bila ada sikit je konflik, for example, your superior said that if you didn't complete this work within this weekend, then therefore probably I need to cut your mark for the final performance. So then you start working on your assignments soon. Soon as possible. Ada je sikit sentuhan tu. Okay, and then the interactionist views does not propose that all conflict are good. Dia tak kata semua konflik bagus. Okay, some conflicts support the goals of the group and improve its performance. Then these are considered to be the functional, constructive forms of conflict. Okay, another one, some conflicts hinder group performance. So these are dysfunctional or disruptive forms of conflict. So meaning to say, the interactionist view ni, it groups two types. It group the type of conflict ni into two, functional and dysfunctional conflict. So what they want to highlight is the functional conflict, but we also need to identify what are those considered to be dysfunctional conflict. Okay, dua-dua. Okay, so these are the differences between the traditional versus current view of conflict. As what I said, even though the name is traditional conflict, but still there are people who keep these views until now. Ada lagi contohnya, if you heard about child marriage banning in Malaysia, should we implement the child marriage ban or shouldn't? Ada tak dengar isu tu? Which is the women minister said that Malaysia has no plan to ban the child marriage in Malaysia. But there are some NGOs that try to fight for child marriage banning in Malaysia. Tahu tak apa child marriage tu?
Tahu doktor.
What about in China? Is there any specific age that you are allowed to get married in China? Does your government has any special policy related to child marriage? Ada?
Doctor, first of all, I don't know any policy about that, but our country just doesn't allow that, and no one. I believe that no one do that.
No one. Okay, so no one do that in China because there is no such restriction in China when it is related to religion. So in Malaysia, because whatever rules that been established in Malaysia, it is related to religion's belief in Malaysia, which is Islam is said to be the Islam is said to be the Suhaila.
Doctor, yes, doctor, right?
Yes. What is the position of Islam in Malaysia? Malaysia
Is our country kita punya Malaysia punya agama Islam.
You all okay, later you all read again the Malaysia Constitution. Actually, nothing mentioned that Malaysia is Islam is the primary religion in Malaysia. It's just the majority of Malaysians are Muslim. Never stated that Islam ni. Sebenarnya itu tafsiran. I'm not going to oppose it, but itu tafsiran. All of us believe that. Saya pun macam tu juga. Last time I believe that yes, Malaysia is the primary religion in Malaysia. No, actually. Nanti you all baca balik Malaysian Constitution. Okay, but just to let everybody know that most of the rules that been regulated in Malaysia are based on religion lah, related to religion. So one of the issue that been raised now is the issue of child marriage, meaning that the marriage below 16 years old, right? 16. If I'm not mistaken, 16 16 or 17 or 18. Saya lupa. 18
16.
16. Marriage below
16 betul. 16.
Okay, thank you Suhaila. Thank you for to check for me. Okay. So what are the issue when you married below age 16 Is it bad? Is it good? I'm also exploring because there are NGOs that I join also want me to keep the move to join the move to fight for child marriage banning ni, but I still indecisive. Sebab tak tahu lagi. I'm not yet exploring. Okay, tapi I'm keep reading lah what are the pro and cons of child marriage banning ni, and then how much it is related to Islam because I'm a Muslim. Okay, apa? Itu contoh je. That one is just the example of current situation. Okay, and then the traditional view of organizational conflict. So first, based on the traditional view, it is said that conflict is avoidable. Meanwhile, based on the current view of conflict is inevitable. Okay, and then conflict is caused by management errors in designing organization or by troublemakers. Okay, so maksudnya according to the traditional ni, all the conflicts ni just been caused by the management. Okay, because because at the lower level, you just accept what has been said or what has been decided by the top management. So any errors that exist, it is due to the top management, due to the leader. Okay, and then according to the current views, conflict arises from many causes, including organizational culture, unavoidable, differences in goals, differences in perceptions and values of specialized personnel, and so on. So according to the current view, the conflict can arise at any level, not just at top management. It can be at middle level. It also can be at the bottom level. Okay, any level. And then conflict disrupts the organization and prevents optimal performance. So that is why, according to the traditional view, the conflict must be eliminated. Okay, the source of conflict must be eliminated. However, according to the current views, conflict contributes and detracts from organizational performance in varying degrees. So meaning that there are certain types of conflict that can bring benefit to the organization if you manage it accordingly. If you manage the conflict accordingly, then it will bring benefit to the organization. But there are also the conflict that can hinder the organizational performance. Okay, and then the task of the management is to eliminate the conflict. So these are the main roles of top management. Eliminate the source of conflict. Okay, the task of the management is to manage the level of conflict and its resolution for optimal organizational performance for current view. So current view ni, it is not just eliminating the conflict, but manage. We manage the conflict. We do not eliminate the source of conflict, but we manage, okay, the source of conflict, and we try to propose the resolution to make sure that the conflict or the differences can be accepted synchronously. We can be accepted harmoniously. Then we can work together to bring high productivity to our organization. Then lastly, optimal organizational performance requires the removal of conflict. So dia kata according to the traditional view ni, okay, except we eliminate or remove the source of conflict, only then the organizational can perform. Lepas kita buang pekerja tu. For example, if we have an employee that always bring trouble to us because his idea that are totally different with the rest, then we think that the way we can move forward, then we only when we remove or fire this employee. Itu contoh kalau dalam the traditional view. But for the current view, optimal organizational performance requires a moderate level of conflict. Dia tak kata semua konflik perlu dibuang, but it requires moderate. Or at moderate level, we need to maintain the conflict. Okay? Okay, next one, functional versus dysfunctional conflict as what is stated by interactionist view. Interactionist yang the latest view So they are so when we want to know when we want to identify either the conflict is functional or dysfunctional, we make a comparison according to the three contexts based on task, relationship, and process. Task ni related to the content and goals of the work. Relationship ni between interpersonal relationship, either between colleagues or between superior and inferior, subordinate, superior and subordinate. And then lastly, the process related to how the work gets done. Macam mana kita nak identify either one conflict is functional or dysfunctional? We compare based on these three elements. Okay. Okay, studies demonstrate that relationship conflicts are almost always dysfunctional. Why? So dia ada kat sini, dia kata based on past study, dia kata memang relationship conflict ni means that the relationship between a conflict that exists between two or more individuals ni always dysfunctional. Why? It appears that the friction and interpersonal hostilities inherent in relationship conflicts increase personality clash and decrease mutual understanding, which hinders the completion of organizational tasks. Sebab apa? Sebab relationship conflict ni most of the time it happen due to personality clash. Perbezaan personality. Okay. However, managers spend a lot of their time resolving personality conflict. 18% of their time ni managers spend to resolve the personality conflict. Sebenarnya manager should reduce because personality conflict ni sesuatu yang sangat susah untuk kita deal. Okay, sangat susah. It's involved the personality conflict, personality clash. How are we able to change individual personality within 2 years, 3 years? Susah. Okay. Next one is low level of process conflict and low to moderate level of task conflicts are functional. Apa yang kita nak boleh cakap kat sini adalah most of the time relationship conflict is dysfunctional and process and task conflict ni they are functional. Most of them are functional but according to the level. We require them according to the level. For process conflict we need at low level. For the task conflict we need at moderate level. None of this conflict we need at high level. Sampai moderate je. Okay, so for process conflict to be productive, okay, it must be kept low. So intense argument about who should do what become dysfunctional when they create uncertainty about task roles, increase the time to complete tasks and lead to members working at cross purposes. Okay, meanwhile, low to moderate levels of task conflict consistently demonstrate a positive effect on group performance because discussion of ideas is stimulated and that helps group perform better. So ini dia punya reason. Kenapa relationship conflict always be dysfunctional, process and task conflict can be functional. Okay. Okay, so this one what I said earlier, so context and level of conflict ni there are few levels. Okay, so conflict at individual level in which we can divide into 2 types, intrapersonal and interpersonal. Okay, intrapersonal ni between individual, between ourselves, what happening. Okay, sometimes within ourselves we have 2 different thoughts, we have 2 different ideas. Should or shouldn't we do this? Should or shouldn't we perform this? Ada tak? Pernah tak berlaku? There's one side of you, you say yes. There's one side of you, you say no.
Ada, doktor pernah.
So ada. So intrapersonal ni something that we need to deal first before we are able to deal stably. Apa tu, we can deal harmoniously with other people. Yang dalam ni kena settle dulu. Intrapersonal, sorry. So interpersonal ni between 2 or more individuals. Okay, between 2 or more individuals. This one dah kita dengan orang lain lah. Then conflict at group level. Okay, means that when we need to work with group. Okay, and then organizational. Alamak, banyak pula kat sini. At organizational level. Okay, community level. Community level ni can be at neighborhood level for example. Kalau kita bekerja dengan Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat, so we deal with the social issue, so it can be a community issue. And then lastly, the international conflict. So international conflict ni, the simplest example that I can provide to you is the role played by the Foreign Ministry of Malaysia, Malaysia Foreign Ministry. Okay, international conflict. Okay, for the armed conflict between Ukraine and Russia. So the last time the conflict between Malaysia and North Korea. Pembunuhan Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-nam. Okay, itu interpersonal conflict. And then the case Sajat last time. Okay, it is the international conflict between Malaysia and Thailand. Okay. Okay, next one. Okay, ni senang ya, saya boleh laju. So intrapersonal conflict, again, so it is referring to the intra-individual or intra-psychic conflict. Okay, in which it occurs when an organizational member is required to perform certain tasks and roles that do not match his or her expertise, interests, goals and values. Dia tak nak tapi you refuse to do it but you have no options. You cannot say no dalam mind kita. So means that there are frustration in yourself. Okay, and then intrapersonal conflict. Alamak. Yang ni inter Saya betulkan balik. This one intra, this one inter. Okay, so next one interpersonal conflict. So it's also known as dyadic. Dyadic why? Because it involves two person. Dyad. Okay, so it refers to conflict between two or more organizational members of the same or more. Mana dah tadi? Of the same or different hierarchical levels or unit. Different hierarchical ni sama ada when you the conflict tu happen between you and another person at similar position or different position. Similar department or different department. Okay. The studies on superior subordinate conflict relate to this type of conflict. Another example is the superior subordinate conflict, which is the conflict at different hierarchical level between you and your supervisor, for example. Okay, and then it involves some form of goal conflict and cognitive conflict. So dua-dua ni conflict at individual level ni, it can involve the goal conflict or cognitive conflict. Okay, cognitive ni something that related to your mind, feel and so on. Okay, so goal conflict exists for individual when their behavior will result in outcomes that are mutually exclusive or have compatible element. Okay, cognitive conflict refers to any discord in our minds causes psychological distress. So goal conflict ini mostly related to the interpersonal conflict. Meanwhile, cognitive conflict ni it started from individual. Okay, it can cause to intrapersonal conflict, and then if let's say you make it visible, it can lead to interpersonal conflict. Okay, so under the cognitive ni, it is related to your belief, values and opinion to confront each other. Okay, differences in belief, values and opinion. Okay, next one, conflict at okay. So there are three patterns. There are three patterns of conflict at individual level. Either it is approach conflict, avoidance conflict, or approach avoidance conflict. Approach and avoidance conflict ini very simple. For approach, it is referring to a situation where a person must choose between two or more alternative that in which the both alternative ni they have the positive outcome. Dua-dua menarik. Okay, dua-dua menarik. You have two options, which is these two options ni are interesting to you. Okay, then you confuse which one to choose. Okay, for example, employees may be threatened with punishment in the form of demotion unless they do something they dislike, spend much time traveling on their job, for example. Another example, you need for example saya terbalik tu dia punya contoh tu. The example, first example tu for the second one, not the first one. Example for the first one ni, for example you've been requested with two options. The first option, you stay at the current post and then the current place of work without any salary increment. Contoh. Okay. Another option, the second option is you have to be transferred. Okay, you have to be transferred and then with some salary increment. The first option, there is no salary increment, but it is close to your home or close to your family. But the second one, you need to transfer your workplace, but there is a salary increment. So dua-dua ada positive outcome. Okay, approach conflict ni means that you need to choose either one, your family or the salary. Okay. The second one, avoidance conflict, a situation in which a person must choose between two or more alternatives and they all have negative outcomes. Ini baru betul contoh yang atas ni. Okay, for example, employees may be threatened with punishment in the form of demotion unless they do something they dislike, for example, spend much time traveling on their job. Ini yang avoidance ni means that you need to choose two options in which these two options is actually bring a negative effect to you. Okay, the first one, you've been threatened to do to demotion. Okay, kecuali you all buat sesuatu yang you didn't like. Dua-dua tak suka. Okay. And then next one, approach avoidance conflict, a situation in which a person must decide whether to do something that bad that had both positive and negative outcomes. Ni dia lebih kurang sama dengan approach conflict tadi. Being offered a good job in a bad location. Bad location, which is the working environment. Okay, the option is good. Being offered a good job with higher salary, but the working environment is not healthy to you. Itu pula. Okay, so there are three options, three patterns that makes individual involved in conflict at individual level. Ada tiga situation yang akan lead the individual to be in conflicting situation. Okay. Banyak pula, saya ingatkan sikit je. Slide sikit je tapi banyak pula penerangan saya. Okay, this one laju Conflict at group level, so there are two types, intragroup and intergroup conflict. So intragroup means that the conflict between members within similar group. Okay, so also known as intra-department conflict. It refers to conflict among members of a group or between two or more subgroups within a group in connection with its goal, task, and procedure. So when we say something related to intragroup ni means that it is something that really the conflict ni arise due to the elements related to our group. For example, goal, task, and procedure. Goal ni the goal of our conflict. The task ni what should we implemented. The procedure ni how the way we should complete or the process that we should go through to complete or achieve our group goal. Okay. Such a conflict may occur as a result of incompatibilities or disagreements between some or all the group members of a group and its leader. So kalau dalam ni dia akan adalah leadership, okay, kepemimpinan, kepengikutan, contohnya followership. Okay, and then next one, intergroup conflict means that the conflict that arise between one group with another group. Okay, one group with another group. Kalau intragroup dalam group yang sama, intergroup dengan group yang lain. Okay, so hak ni boleh laju. Conflict between line and staff, production and marketing and headquarters and field staffs are example of this type of conflict. One special type of intergroup conflict is between labor and management. Labor and management. As what I said last week, okay, if you are working as an HR officer, at what level you are working at, you should be a representative of your employer, which is the management. Representative of management. You should no longer represent the labor. Labor ni maksudnya antara management dengan pekerja. Pekerja yang teknikal ni. Okay. Next one. Conflict at organizational level. It refers to conflict which occurs at the level of the entire organization. Maksudnya this is one at the higher level lah. So there are two types, intra-organizational level, so in which conflict happening within the organization, and then inter-organizational level refers to the conflict occurring between more than one or two or more organizations. So for example, the competition between Lenovo and Huawei. Contoh, or competition between Huawei and Apple, sorry. So kita ada student daripada China ni kan, so it's quite interesting lah to discuss the competition between US and China related to the technology ni. Okay, because in China they have their own searching engine, but we in Malaysia most of the time we use Google. Google ni introduced by which country? Siapa? Yes. Kalau in China, what system that you use? Zhong Yiji.
Baidu. Baidu.
Baidu.
Yes.
See, they have their own. So the competition between the companies in China and the companies in US ni, somehow it is related to the competition of power between the two countries to conquer the technology area ni. Okay, itu contoh. Okay, and then the organizations belonging to same industry may indulge in unethical practices and unhealthy competition because of inter-organizational conflict. Ni dia adalah dia akan related to politics, related to power kat sini. Okay. Okay. So as what I said, conflict ni it can be in two form. Either it is a collaborative conflict or competition. Okay, which one? If let's say you involve in conflict, which one should you respond? Either to collaborate or to compete with your opponent. To collaborate with your opponent or to compete with your opponent. Which one that you prefer? Okay. According to Morton Dutch, Morton Dutch ni one of the pioneer in conflict resolution area, field of study. He introduced the cooperative model. Okay, Morton Dutch meaning that to Morton Dutch ni, according to Morton Dutch, conflict ni, if we want to manage it efficiently, we have to be cooperative instead of competitive. Okay, Morton Dutch is one of the first to develop insight into the beneficial consequences of cooperation as an academic inquiry. Dia kata, kalau dalam konflik ni, cooperation ni better than competition. The nature of the disputes and the goals each party aims determine the kind of orientation a party would bring to the negotiating table in its attempt to solve the conflict. Okay, so now we use the second and third views of conflict. We are not using the first traditional view of conflict in which the conflict should be avoided. So when we attended this class, so we should think that the conflict is something that is manageable and then should be managed accordingly to produce with the alternative for solution. Okay, so that's why bila kita discuss kat sini, kita akan berjumpa. We can see a few terms that are related to conflict resolution or conflict management strategy. Okay. So dia kata kat sini, nature of the disputes and the goals each party aims determine the kind of orientation. Hold on. Saya tengok apa kat chat. Baidu, I see. Baidu. Okay. Okay. Means that the goals of each party, the goals of each individual ni will determine the kind of orientation. Sama ada it can be competitive, it can be cooperative, it can be accommodate. Later on we will learn about the 5 styles of conflict handling strategy. Ada 5 style. Okay. And then so this orientation ni kita akan bawa during the negotiating session. Okay, there are 2 basic orientation exist. Later on, dia akan ada lagi 5. Okay, so there are, according to Morton Dutch ni, there are 2 basic orientation to deal with the conflict. Either you want to compete or cooperate. So compete ni, it will lead to win-lose situation. Akan ada when you apply the competitive strategy. Okay, there are only two results, 2 outcomes. There will be one party loss, one party win. Loss, win. Okay. And then this approach is inclined to intensifying animosity and distrust between parties and is generally considered destructive. Okay, basically, if you don't think to maintain a long-term relationship with your opponent, so then you may apply this competitive strategy. Or another way is, if let's say you are confident in your position to win that conflict, so then you may apply the competitive strategy. Okay, if you are superior to your subordinate, then you may apply this competitive. Okay, but it is considered to be a destructive way to deal with conflict. Okay, the second one is cooperative. Cooperative would evoke an atmosphere of trust and eventually lead to mutually beneficial options for settlement. Under the cooperative need, both parties are working together to come up with the alternative and solutions. Then therefore, it will ensure the trust between the two parties. Okay, they work together, they feel the belongingness of their effort ni, they develop the trust, so then that's why as a result they can maintain long-term relationship between the two parties. It can be between you and your colleague, between you and your superior, it can be between one organization and its competitor, dia boleh jadi. Okay? Okay. This one cooperative and competitive ni kalau dalam in business world we can see as apa tu dalam situasi apa nama dia? Merger and acquisition contohnya. Itu dalam business, dalam dunia business, merger and acquisition. Okay? Okay, next one. Features of cooperation and competition. Okay, kalau kita tengok cooperation ni, the conflict is seen as a joint problem to be solved. Meaning that both parties see the issue, the object, the content of the conflict ni is something that must be resolved together. It is not the problem of only one party. Okay, and then it is characterized by open, honest communication of relevant information. Meaning that during the negotiation or mediation, both parties will share the information. Okay, and they do not intentionally hide the information. Okay, they share whatever they know so that the conflict can be resolved to meet both objectives, at least at the minimal level. Okay, and then disputants pool effort to gather information. Both parties working together to get the necessary information, okay, to resolve their conflict. So that's why it is efficient in time and money. Okay, and then disputants try to help one another. Okay, it generates feeling of friendliness. Disputants tend to see one another's similarities and not differences. Okay, and then the dispute tends to be contained in size and tends not to spread. Okay, the conflict ni can be settled between the two parties only. Okay, kalau you all tengok dalam case Siti Nordiana and siapa who are the opponent Shura and the team Shura and team. Okay, by the way Siti Nordiana and Shura and the team ni, Shura and friends ni are two entertainer apa nama dia apa dia panggil penyanyi singer in Malaysia that currently having personal conflict, interpersonal conflict. Okay, kalau you all tengok dalam case ni, if they can discuss the conflict between them, the conflict ni cannot the conflict ni no need to be spread out until we need to bring the case to court. Okay, but why people love to bring the case to court? Kenapa? Anybody? Kenapa orang suka sangat bawa sikit gaduh sikit nak bawa ke mahkamah? Why? Last time we rarely found that we rarely see the case between family members, between a son or daughter and with their parents, bring the case related to harta apa panggil? Apa harta peninggalan ke mahkamah. Apa dia?
Pusaka ke?
Pusaka, yes. Bawa harta pusaka ni, rebut harta pusaka ke mahkamah. But now we can see a lot of this kind of cases that bring to court.
Silap saya kalau kes macam ni dia akan dapat duit lah sebab disaman atas kes fitnahan.
Yeah.
Dia akan
Aida, that one case related to Siti Nordiana or perebutan harta pusaka?
Siti Nordiana punya kes.
Itulah, memang it is related to fitnah, but sometimes the issue can be resolved outside the court, in which it is easy because these people, they are friends, right? They are friends at the first place. So why you need to be a stranger by bring the case to court? When you bring the case to court, it is very difficult for you to maintain a long-term relationship. Ajalah bawa isu tu Sebab mahkamah the court has too many cases to be handled. So why we want to burden them with a simple case? Itulah pada saya Okay. Saja je. Supaya you all pun berjaga-jagalah in your future Tak adalah see you in the court. Okay. So features of competition ni, so the conflict is seen as a contest with a winner and loser. Meaning that when you enter into a negotiation table, then you see that you can win the conflict. So that's for you are confident with yourself that I can win the conflict, I can win this competition. So that's why you see there will be a winner and loser in that situation. There are where the position that you will feel something like that. Okay, and then it is characterized by avoidance of communication, miscommunication and misleading communication. So back on the issue of Siti Nordiana and friends ni. So this is the issue. Allah tumpah air saya. Okay, these are the main issue. They refuse to communicate. There are miscommunication between the friends and misleading in terms of communication. Okay, so conflict ni most of the time it happen because of failure in communication. Failure in communication most of the time. Either one person failed to portray the true intention due to his or personality, or due to inability of another person to interpret what the terms that what does the first person mean. Dia akan ada sender and recipient punya issue. Okay, kalau you all attend communication class, okay, dia akan ada sender, orang yang menghantar maklumat, proses, and then recipient, penerima maklumat. Okay, and then disputants duplicate effort to gather information because they mistrust one another effort. Why duplicate? Because these two parties have to work alone by themselves to get the information. Kalau let's say dalam cooperation, both party working together, there is no duplication of effort. But in competition, both party has to work individually to reach similar information. Susah. Ingat court ni, you have to pay certain fees tau. For example, if you win the case with 10,000, so 15% will go to the court fees, lawyer. Berapa je you all akan dapat? You waste your time, you waste your money, you lost your friend. Okay, and then disputants try to obstruct one another. Okay, the one party will try to stop another party for sure. And then it generates feelings of enmity, hostility. Disputants tend to ignore one another's similarity and focus on differences. Okay, we look for the weaknesses instead of the strength of the opponent. Kita akan cuba cari kelemahan parti lain. Okay, ini dia features of cooperation and competition according to modern Dutch views. Okay, so there are, saya rasa ada 4 views. There are 4 views. Sorry, there are 4 premises of Dutch theory. According to Dutch ni, dia ada 4 premise. First premise, conflict is either cooperative and competitive. Conflict situation ni boleh jadi 2 je kalau ikut modern Dutch. Either it is competitive or cooperative. Okay, and then the second premise, cooperation tends to be constructive and competition tends to be destructive. So kalau kita tengok ni, Dutch ni dia ada related to traditional view lah. So dia kata cooperation ni tends to be constructive. Then competition tends to be destructive. Simple. Okay, premise 3, Dutch crude axiom. Dia kata cooperation begets cooperation and then competition begets the competition. Situ maksud dia kat sini, if the conflicting situation is seen to be a cooperative, so meaning that it will encourage the cooperative effort. But if the conflict ni is seen to be competitive, a competition, then it also will encourage a competition efforts between parties. Okay, between the opponent or parties. Okay, and then so maksudnya how does the opponent, how does the parties perceive the conflict situation ni will shape their behavior or response to the conflict. Kalau kita nampak konflik tu memang competition, memang kita nampak yang hujung tu pasti akan ada pemenang. For example, you see to be the best student, to receive the best student awards. For example, so meaning that there are only one winner. You see that the conflict, the current conflict is there will be only one winner. It cannot be 2. So that's how you perceive from the very beginning. Then therefore, the process that you will go through ni will become the competitive. But if you perceive that the situation ni, okay, not just because of award, but you think because of experience as well. For you, attending this competition or situation is not just to get the awards, but to gain the experience. So then you perceive that the situation is not just a competition. Therefore, you will work cooperatively with one another. You don't see the result too as the main goal, because you see, if let's say you didn't win, then you gain a very good experience. If you win, then you win lah. If you win, then it is the advantage. But the main thing is you gain the experience. Itu contoh. Kalau you nampak situasi itu kooperatif, then therefore you akan respond cooperatively. It depends on the way we perceive that situation. Okay, and then premise 4, it is easier to move from cooperation to competition than vice versa. Senang untuk kita berubah daripada cooperation to competition, but not from competition to cooperative. So therefore, when you started to perceive something from cooperation, you can anytime change your perception to competition. That's why you need to be careful. But if you start with competition from the very beginning, it is very difficult for you to become cooperative during the whole process of conflict resolution. Awal tu penting sangat, the way we perceive the situation. So awal tu kat mana? The beginning. Where is the beginning? Where is the beginning? Kat mana yang awal tu? We, us, our own perspective. Kat sini. Okay, macam mana kita punya karakter ni, when we see things, we can perceive or we can read that situation correctly. Okay, kat situ. That's why dia kata kat sini, cooperation ni is relatively fragile. Cooperation ni sebenarnya mudah pecah. Sangat senang pecah. Okay, anytime it can be broken down. Sebab nak bergaduh ni senang je. Okay, ni tak apa. Yang ni later on we will discuss during our lab session. Sebenarnya ada satu case study. I already posted one case study. InsyaAllah this week we are going to have our discussion lah. try to have a look at the case study, this one as well. First study yang satu tu Harry. Okay, I already posted in our Putra Blast. And then the second case is this one. Okay, kita akan proceed mana-mana satu nanti. If you have time, please read these two case studies. Mana yang sempat kita buat dulu Kita tengok kalau sempat ni kita buat ni dulu, kalau sempat tu kita buat tu dulu. Mana-mana. Okay, just read dulu, try to come up with the ideas. Okay, kalau tak sempat during this week, before the class, then we will do the discussion during our lab session. Okay, kita akan buat kerja berkumpulan sikit lah. Okay, there will be no mark, it's just the discussion and to train our cognitive skill. Okay, tak ada marks And then tak perlu submission pun, it's just the discussion. Okay, and then, okay, this is a little bit the history of conflict resolution lah Sikit je ni. Tak perlu hafal pun, insyaAllah tak ada dalam exam pun this one. Okay, so the conflict resolution ni has been introduced at the University of London in 1965 as an extension of the conventional strategic power politics international relations course. Okay, so konflik ni dia memang kalau kita tengok daripada broader perspektif, dia akan closely related to power. Okay, biasanya orang yang ada konflik ni sama ada you want to maintain your power or you are at the top, at the bottom level in which you want to challenge the power conferred by by superior. Sama ada kita berusaha untuk mengekalkan kuasa kita. Kuasa ni boleh jadi the power within the organisation or the power to administer one country, the one nation, okay, one monarchy, okay, ataupun kita sebenarnya berada di bawah tapi kita cuba untuk challenge. Challenge apa dalam bahasa Melayu? Challenge apa bahasa Melayu?
Cabaran.
Maksudnya kita cuba untuk mencabar the power conferred gained by the top management, top level ataupun superior. Okay, kita nak cabar, we want to challenge the power conferred. If you may recall in Malaysia last few years back, during Tun Mahathir's, before Tun Mahathir's become the Prime Minister, okay, most of Malaysian citizens cannot say anything about the top Malaysian higher up. Betul tak? Either to politician or either to the king. Right? But nowadays we can see that openness. We still cannot say anything about the kings lah. The kings cannot. But we still can comment or give feedback about politician. Last time we cannot do that. If you do that, you will be jailed. Betul tak? You all lahir tahun berapa?
98.
98 so no wonder. You ask your parents. Try to ask your parents. In which last time, 20, 30 years back, we do not have that openness, flexibility. Okay. Same goes to what currently happening in Thailand. Anything just, you all cakap je apa-apa pasal dia punya raja tu, the king tu, boleh jadi you all akan dipancung. Okay? Kalau you are the Thailand citizen lah. Okay. The purpose, okay, to provide the possibilities of analytical problem solving in interstate relationships rather than dealing with potential military conflict situation by balance of power and alliance means. So that time ni they try to reduce the campur tangan military. Okay, they try to reduce the military intention ni to the country by resolving the conflict through managing the conflict. Maksudnya through negotiations, through mediation, through any means possible. Okay, and then early focus is on international relation and the study of peace and conflict. Okay, dia punya interest on that time is to study the international relations either between US, US, Iran, contohnya between Palestine and Israel, contohnya between China and US, okay. And then this problem solving approach, maksudnya the conflict resolution is quite similar with the problem solving approach actually, but this is more on sociological approach, okay. With its analytical focus on human motivations and relationships, was soon seen to apply to all social and political levels, thus offering an alternative to the power-based law and order approach to the problems of societies. Okay, and then by reason of its comprehensive nature, conflict resolution is now emerging as a political philosophy with widespread social and political implication. This one is on the larger scope lah, on the larger scope of conflict resolution, but I'm not sure that we are going to cover the whole thing in our class, because the main focus of my intention is more on organizational conflict lah, but to prepare you with your workplace later on. Okay, so conflict management has went through the evolution through the theories that been proposed according to the time frame. So they started dengan the critical theory. Critical theory ni started with the problem solving approach, and then feminist. Feminist ni the way we deal with conflict in which we consider the element of gender. Feminist ni dia bukan saja perempuan, it's also considered the male as well. Okay, and then the postmodernism theory, post-structural theory, and post-colonial theory. Okay, nak ikut ni. Tak apa, today we stop here because it's almost 3, in which I have another class later. Okay, we'll continue this conflict management evolution perspective next week, insyaAllah, this one. Okay, so any questions so far, guys? I do hope that you enjoy my lecture, the discussion. Any questions so far?
No, doctor.
Not yet, doctor.
Okay, so I thought that's all for today. So thank you, guys. So hopefully we will see each other again with lab session and next week. Okay, so thank you, guys. Take care. By the way, don't forget to mark your attendance, yeah.
Yes, already.
Okay, so thank
Thank you, doctor.
you. See you next week. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, doctor.
Waalaikumsalam.